So, are the space jockeys just like the worst pilots ever? How many of these ships are just littered across the galaxy? So the latest trailer for Alien Covenant hit. Now, I've talked a little bit about this thing before, mainly about how much I did not like the first trailer that came out. They came out with a little bit of a thing a week or so ago, this clip that they called The Last Supper that shows the crew and, them interacting before things all go to heck. And I didn't do a video on that, but I considered doing it. I didn't really care for that either. It wasn't bad. There was nothing wrong with it. It felt so much like they were just trying to recapture the dynamic of that original crew from the original movie. And for me, at least, it didn't help that they called back to, somebody started coughing and, somebody even said the line, "Come on, the food's not that bad," which is a direct lift from Alien. I know it's supposed to be an homage or an Easter egg or whatever. For me, it just highlighted how much of a retread that whole thing felt. So that didn't impress me. This trailer, I'm not going to say it gets rid of my fears and my lack of faith in this movie entirely, but it's better. It's better on a lot of levels, mostly because it spends the first chunk not focusing on the overt horror elements. And as much as I love Alien as a horror film, that first one especially, it's really hard to sell a horror movie on those kinds of things because we've seen it all before, and when you do it in trailer editing, it kind of all looks the same. But what they showed for what looks like the earlier part and the setup stuff actually intrigued me, and for a lot of small reasons, and those small reasons could end up being the thing that puts it into a more favorable thing, or they could be small things that aren't big enough to actually make up a difference for things I don't like. We'll see. But some of the small things I like. They mentioned that the crew is made up of couples, and I hadn't realized that. I knew they were colonists, going to a planet, but I didn't realize that it was made up of couples, people who are intentionally together. Now, that's a small thing, but that's actually a significant difference from pretty much any other space movie that you see, because maybe there's one couple going on, but 9 times out of 10, they're not supposed to be fraternizing in the first place. And the other times, it's like, as I said, it's like just one couple and usually having just some sort of wild sex fling going on. So the idea that these people were picked because of their bonds together, and that to me actually adds some more stakes to it, that these aren't people who are just stuck in a tin can and hooked up because that's the only person there that they felt attracted to. No, these are people who actually genuinely care about each other well ahead of anything going wrong. And I think if played well, that could really bring a lot more weight and stakes to when characters inevitably start getting picked off, if they play it right. Certainly as a setup, I appreciate it. There was another thing just about the moment when they're on the planet, and there's a part of me that feels like, God, they just picked a really pretty area and was like, look, it's an alien planet, but it looks so much like Earth. But then they mentioned, this is wheat, this is weird, and that in and of itself felt like, kind of hanging a lampshade on the problem. But then they're saying, do you hear anything? There's no animals. And the more I thought about that, the more I thought, that's kind of interestingly, oddly creepy and unnerving. The idea that you could be this place that looks like Earth, but there's none of the sounds. Like, just think of the ambient sounds when you're out in nature. The buzz of insects, the things like birds, something moving in a bush. All that stripped out and gone. That's oddly creepy. I'm not sure how effectively it can be conveyed in a movie. That seems like the kind of creepy that would work much better as an actual experience, or maybe like in a video game. But it's an idea that I like. So there's sorts of those little things, but then they had the face hugger jump, and then we get into the rapid cut. Here's bits of gore, here's a kill, here's a xenomorph bashing its head on the windshield, and all that was fine. That was sort of where it didn't lose me, but nothing that I saw on that back half of the trailer did anything to change much of my mind. It just reminded me of the stuff that I'd seen before. But what they showed in terms of the setup and on the front half of that trailer intrigued me much more. And I'm hoping that it's indicative not just of them going, and here's our fodder. Like, I would like to see them put some effort into this setting and into these characters. And I think these little touches that I mentioned might point to them doing that. They also just might be fluff and they don't add up to anything. but it's the first thing really since the title change from Prometheus 2 to Alien Covenant that to me has been a positive thing that I've seen, because it seems like ever since that title change, everything that I've seen, every trailer, every image or whatever, it's just been, my enthusiasm for the project has just been going, nyeh. And this has brought it back up a little. I mean, not where it started when I first heard there was going to be a follow-up to Prometheus, but it's not continuing to dip, and that's not nothing. I just really don't want it to abandon the big ideas that Prometheus was trying to tackle. Prometheus didn't completely succeed at what it was doing, but I liked its ambition, and I want to see this be a movie with ambition, not just a let's just do alien slasher horror space stuff again, because we've seen it, and we've seen it done awesome, and I would rather see them try to pay off the bigger ideas from Prometheus. And while the things that I saw at the front end don't necessarily point to that, they point to more thought and care being laid into this film than I initially would have given it credit for. So we'll see what happens. So those are my thoughts on the latest trailer for Alien Covenant. Did you see the trailer? What were your thoughts on it? Whatever they were, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, check me out on Twitter at Council of Geeks. Give a listen to the Council of Geeks podcast, available on iTunes and Stitcher. And until next time, this council is adjourned.